and menses. And sometimes, even when you stick that part, the whole section gets stitched totally, which then will not allow menses and urine to pass. And of course, that type of FGM is also practiced amongst the communities which live in Nordistan, especially the Somali. And of course, when they're also doing that, the type 3, sometimes after stitching, they tie the legs of the lady so that the lady or the girl is immobilized.
To heal or what?
Yeah, to heal. And so that, of course, you know when the girl moves, of course, maybe some part will tear. So then the last one, which of course WHO classifies as others, is the type of FGM where we have there are some communities who pull the sexual organ of the ladies. They pull the clitoris to make it longer, because there are some communities who say that when the clitoris is longer, I think there are some men who enjoy it. So in essence, when you also look at the reason why women do this, it's because they also want to please the men. So now the issue of pulling, there are also some communities who do ringing. They put rings on the sexual organ of the female.
In Kenya, anyway, in Kenya.
The pulling is done by some communities in Uganda. Yeah, but of course, the issue of putting rings on the sexual organs, there are quite a number of people in Kenya who do that. Yeah.
So this is not religion. This is not. It is total violation.
Yeah, it's not religion.
Just to please men.
And I also want to inform you that when the missionaries came, they were among the first groups to condemn FGM.
Yeah.
And initially, the female, the whole practice was referred to as female circumcision.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when now the missionaries came in, they were now even able to call it the way it's supposed to be called, female mutilation, because it's really cutting that part, and it has no formula. You cut maybe here, there, without any formula.
Yeah.
And there is no medical school which trains probably the medical practitioners on how to do female genital mutilation.
Yeah.
Of course, they teach probably the medical practitioners on how to do the male circumcision. Yeah.
Okay.
But not the.
So I want Sadia to tell us the effects, because she's going to be speaking to us about her experience as a survivor. So the effects of FGM. But before that, I wanted Madam Tabitha to just clarify one thing. Male circumcision is nowhere in this act, is it?
Male circumcision is nowhere in this act, is it? Because male circumcision has been justified as a medical necessity, and therefore it has medical backing.
Yeah.
However, we condemn forced male circumcision totally, because there are some communities again that don't practice male circumcision, and they find themselves in the hands of people who force them to get circumcised.
Yes.
And even those male circumcision, we recommend that it should be done in a proper way in a medical institution, because in some cultures, the kind of practices involve sharing of the blades and all that, and so that the victims or
no anesthesia, nothing.
They are exposed to risks, health risks.
Yeah.
So that is what I can say
Including
about
HIV.
Including HIV. That is what I can say about male circumcision.
And then, like Sadia was mentioning earlier, it is not mutilation. Male circumcision is not like
in fact, even in the Kiswahili word for circumcision is tohara.
Tohara.
Yeah, and for mutilation, nukeketaji.
Oh.
Okay, allow me to say the difference between the male circumcision
and
the female. Because I know many people would ask why men are allowed to do and female are denied. You know, what is cut from a man is a skin. The foreskin is removed for medical reasons. to promote hygiene. Even the word he said, tohara, came from an Arabic word meaning cleanliness. So you are making the person become clean. And for men, it's true. The foreskin would keep some dirt.
Germs, yeah.
When it's removed, they will be clean. And it looks even more beautiful. But for women, they remove, like they change the whole picture of the genitalia. And in my books, I always say, this is a hidden scars of FGM.
Yeah.
Why I've written this book is my personal testimony and to shed light for more people to understand what this whole FGM is.
Yeah.
Here, I have this one for the children.
Okay.
And allow me to say this. The reason as to why I wrote this book is to give people understand.
Yeah.
Here, I've written, it's like a flower, you know. So for the women genitalia,
You say girls are born perfect.
exactly. This is a flower. A flower needs to be nurtured, not to be removed. You know, the more you remove parts of the flower, the more you are destroying the flower, you know.
Yes.
So for the female genitalia, it's an organ. What is cut is an organ, not a skin. So you can imagine, now you can tell the
The
difference.
difference is quite clear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now we come to the effects of
Yes.
FGM. Starting from the non-medical reasons,
Yeah.
he said. If today you go to hospital and your finger has to be removed because of medical reasons, that's okay. But if it's removed, everyone would ask you, why was it removed? Then you should justify. Because, you know, it developed something and
It
the
had to be removed.
doctor justified that it should be removed.
Yeah.
But when can you go now and say, I want my finger removed? Never. I like the answer. Never. The same way, we don't want any girl to go through FGM.
Yeah.
It should be never as well. Why? Because, you know, the effects come from the first preparation of FGM. No one prepares you for the pain. No one, absolutely no one. So the moment you are taken to the bush, now imagine I was cut at 10 years. So I will try to mix my story.
Yeah, please do, because I wanted to find out just a bit of that as
Yes,
well. Yes.
my story and the effects in relation to the effects. So now I was cut at the age of 10 years old. So you can imagine, as a 10-year-old girl, excited, you know, you will be too excited because of the pressure from the girl.
Yes.
You are not cut, you're not clean when you are at school. So I really wanted to go through FGM.
Oh.
I was so much excited because I thought I would be washed, you know, you will become clean. Then on the contrary, you're taken to the bush, a lot of women surrounding you, so you don't know if it's a war, what's happening, you have no idea. So the shock,
Yeah.
the first effect begins, the shock. You start to tremble, you know, a lot of issues. So now, again, the deception part. Now the trauma starts from there.
Yeah.
Reason being, you expected you will be clean. Now your genitalia is being removed. You know, it involves a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Those women are holding your hands, others holding
These
your...
women you know of, or just three women?
Exactly. The cutter was actually my grandmother. May God forgive her.
Yeah.
She passed on and I've forgiven her. So you can imagine your grandmother cutting your skin, you know, your meat is going, you know. For example, and this is some of the best explanation maybe perhaps I can give. You go to the kitchen and you want to cook something. Then accidentally you cut your finger. And then you want to use some water. You know, there is that pain,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Inawasha sana.
Yeah.
In Kiswahili, it's more explanatory. Kuna vile inawasha. So you can imagine, hapo ni kidonda. Sometimes kwa sababu ya ile unaona ile uchungu imekuwa too much. So mkojo inaruka. Ikiruka sababu ile uchungu, hapo ndio sasa umechoma
kwa kidonda.
Imagine. So hapo hata ujui, alafu you cannot scream because kuna wenye wamekuwekelea piece of cloth in your mouth ndio watu wasisikie what's happening. You know, wenye wamekuvuta mikono, wamama wazima, wewe ni mtoto mdogo, umeshikwa tena umelazwa hapa tu. You see? So the struggle, you even struggle to breathe, leave alone like screaming.
Yeah.
So after they cut, and nasikitu ati wanakata wanawacha, it's something they repeat and repeat and repeat, and I don't know what they cut now. So after they are done, they use some medical herbs. Remember, there was no anesthesia, so the pain is double. Now, wakishamaliza, when they are done, you stand up. They help you stand up. After they put the medical herbs, charcoal and something called sheldit grinded together. So you can imagine, how does charcoal even help you heal? They believe it will stop the blood. Then they start tying you from the waist to the toes. Once your toes are tight like this, all your legs are wrapped together. Reason being, they want you, when you are healing, you are completely stitched together. So you are left with a tiny hole for urine, to pass the urine. Now, the biggest challenge now that comes, immediately you are left with your mother, because they lie you on a small skin. You're left with your mother. That's when the whole pain now starts. Not even when you are being cut. The pain starts 2 hours after the procedure. Kuna ile joto inapanda sana. You feel you are shivering. You are not yourself anymore, and you don't know what's happening to you. You want to pee, you can't pee. Unatoa kidogo, kuna ile inawasha sana, the pain, So you can imagine a wound with now urine.
So which one is practiced in your community? Is it type 1,
type 3 of FGM, infibulation. So they remove everything.
Yeah.
Then you are now stitched together, as I told you. They leave you with a tiny hole, and that takes you 2 months to heal.
2 months?
Yes. So that's why most of the time FGM is done during the holidays.
Oh,
now there are others who develop infections during the process, because now you can imagine
it's done outside.
Not even the hospital and all that. You can imagine the place where the urine should come from. Most of the women who are doing the FGM thing have no idea the hole for urine and the one for menses and other things are two different. They don't know. In fact, most of the time they ask me, are you mad?
Oh yeah.
Kwani ingine iko wapi hatujaiona? You see?
They don't know.
Because they don't know. So imagine they completely tamper with the passage of the urine. Now the urine has to flow downwards and come from a hole that is not supposed to come from.
So infections.
Exactly. So the infections. Others develop infections because the place is stitched. You cannot wash the urine now. It's completely stitched. Whole mess. Others stitched together completely so they don't even urinate. After 1 week, you find out, the bladder is full. The girl cannot urinate anymore. She has completely, healed, because the wound is from the outside, blocked. It's blocked. It's a wound inside, but outside it's blocked. So they have to recall the cutter for them to give her space again. Another FGM altogether, forgive me. For me, I didn't experience that.
Yeah.
But there are girls who experience that. Others develop infections with pus, You are not taken to hospital at all. They will just have you. So you can imagine, if you have a wound, every time, like for example, I have a wound here. Every time, I can do like this, because it's getting fresh air. But now, your wound is inside. Your legs are tied together. There is no air, there is nothing, there is no medical attention, And when you have a wound, you have to wash it, you have to clean it. There is nothing like that. So the cutter comes after every 1 week to check how you are progressing. Nothing at all. So after healing, then back to school as normal. You have a lot of questions in your mind. You have no one to ask, because everyone feels it's a normal thing to go through. Even when we lose the lives of those girls, no one reports, no one says we have lost. In fact, in our Muslim community, whenever you die, it's an act of God. So eventually exactly. Eventually you are meant to die. So you died a natural death. No problem at all. So you don't have to complain. That's it. With FGM, even death has been normalized, so no problem. Then,
so a girl has been mutilated. She has healed, and now she has to get married.
For others, unfortunately,
Yeah.
they have to get married because
Immediately after?
immediately it's a known issue. It's FGM is known. When people tell you no, it's done in secret, it's a lie. Even the boys know, girl so and so has gone through FGM,
Yeah.
so now I can marry her. It's as simple as that. So now you can imagine from the village, you are known to everyone that they can now proceed to get you married.
Yeah.
So for
Is that
for
why FGM and child marriage almost go hand in hand?
of course,
Because
yes.
once you're mutilated, I'm avoiding saying circumcised. Once you're mutilated, then they say you're ready for marriage.
Exactly. You know, for circumcision is an initiation process.
Yes.
You know,
The next stage of life.
it's something else. You know, FGM is mutilation
Yes.
because as I earlier told you, it's total destruction.
Mutilation,
It's total destruction of the
Yeah.
female genitalia.
Yeah.
They change the shape and everything as created by God. So that's why it's called mutilation. And another effect that happens during marriage now, there are those who, when, for example, in my community, once the man says that you are okay, like he expected you should be that way and is now satisfied that you are okay, you're taken back to the kata. They give you a space. De-infibulation now.
D now.
You know, de-infibulation, you know,
Okay.
now. And then most of the people think now it's over, you know, because you are stitched together, now
Yes.
you have been reopened, so it's okay. But now the whole issue starts with other communities now. For the Pokot and even the Baringo community, what they do that I've realized from Baringo County, when they also do the infibulation. So when the girl is married and the man says she's now okay, because the space is too tight for the man, they take the goat horn, you know, the goat of a horn, they apply some oil, you know, then they use that to help, you know, for penetration. And that's really something
that is already torture.
horrible. It's horrible, you know, it's like a horror movie, you know.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what happens. Now come to the delivery. That is the worst and biggest nightmare for FGM survivors. Even those who go through excision, still with the clitoridectomy and all that.
Yeah.
Because with any wound, it
But
must
that's
heal with a
okay,
scar.
Yeah.
And with the scar, whether you have which type you have gone does not matter at all. You said less severe. For me, I will tell you this for free. There is no less severe FGM.
There is no safe FGM.
There is no safe, whether done by a medical practitioner, whether done at home by a traditional bath, you know, kata, whether done by a medic, FGM is FGM. There is no safe FGM. At the end of the day, it will develop into a scar. And that scar is what is exactly. Because what is, as I explained to you earlier, with the female genitalia, it has a lot of nerve endings, tissues, and all that. The moment you start even, you know, tuseme kuguza tu hivi, you are already tampering with some tissues and the nerve endings, you know. So it's a sensitive area that needs protection rather than destruction. So there is no safe FGM. And people should never, and I will never say people to go to hospitals. That's a lie. I will be lying. For girls, they have sensitive area and they should never tamper with. So when it comes to delivery now, when you deliver at home, for me, I delivered at home in my first, and that's when I started becoming now an activist.
And I wanted to ask you again, so when did this conversation with you start? When did you discover you have been violated? And when did you start the conversation?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The reason as the biggest issue we are campaigning against FGM is because we really want to safeguard the interests of this innocent girl like Saadia, who was excited to go through FGM. But when she became a woman and she wants to deliver another child, to bring another child back to this life, she's unable to do so because of the effects she got, because of women who tried to destroy her when she was 10 years. I never had the voice at that time. I never knew it was right or wrong. But now I want to give birth to my baby. And Anita, for any woman the biggest joy or happiness is to hold a baby.
Yes.
We all know in marriages,
Yeah.
it brings, that some kind of joy and happiness.
Yeah.
So now imagine me having labor for 3 days, not because the child is, in a wrong direction or something, but because, I don't have a space to pass this child. For the first baby, when I gave birth, my daughter's head was like this, But with the third one, when I went to hospital, now I can tell what it meant. She developed kaput. Why? Because my daughter is forcing herself out. There is no space. So this part of the head is just pushing itself, coming up. So FGM does not only affect me as a survivor, it also affects the unborn babies.
Yes.
So imagine we have to protect two rights: the rights of the unborn child and the rights of the mother, or even the rights of the girls who are innocent, who are just rushing. And I'm very sure many girls from my community go for FGM in the perception that it is a religious requirement, in the perception that they will be proud of their culture, in the perception that for marriageability and acceptance by men. So you can imagine all these violations and injustices you are being done to please a man who no one is actually controlling him. You want to control my sexuality. When you are controlling me, there is no way, Anita, I will get pregnant without a man involved. So you want to monitor me and control me. What about if we wake up tomorrow and say we want to castrate all men? Will they accept? No way. So why do you want to destroy my genitalia? And it involves two to tango for the pregnancy to occur.
Yeah, because FGM is about control. So then, Madam Tabitha, I want to ask you. I wanted to ask you why the ODPP developed SOPs, but clearly because of the harmful effects of FGM.
Yeah.
So then I want to maybe to just say what are some of, how are you able to speak about the SOPs for a bit, and then how they'll be achieved?
Yeah, the SOPs are pursuant to the implementation of the Prohibition of FGM Act.
Yeah.
Because the Act, it cannot stand alone. It requires some form of action, some form of strategy, collaboration, and coordination to ensure that it is implemented to the fullest.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons that we are, the ODPP is committed to ensuring that the Prohibition FGM Act is implemented to the fullest is just to maintain, standardize the procedures, ensure consistency and efficiency in the investigation and prosecution of FGM cases, just to seek to protect the rights of victims, and also to enhance cooperation and collaboration, coordination with other stakeholder agencies, just to ensure that we do not leave any gaps, because this is a culturally entrenched
and changing a people's
practice.
culture is quite
So
difficult.
it takes collaboration.
It must.
Yeah, and many players to be involved, because it's not that just a question of police walking into a home and saying, we hear there was initiation yesterday. First of all, there are many challenges. Who will report? Who will even make the police to know that such and such a thing happened? If it is your grandmother and your aunt and your mother, who will even say it happened? If it was done secretly in some, at birth, who will even report? So it takes a lot of effort, a lot of collaboration, and strategies. So this is why we find that there is need for standard operating procedures. And then investigations are not easy. Even a thoroughly trained police investigator will not easily penetrate FGM cases if there is no collaboration from the other parties, from the community. And that is why we have to step in to ensure that we assist the investigations part of it.
I'm just wondering, in anti-FGM cases, there's so many violations going on. There's child abuse, there's the sexual, offenses. I mean, who do you go for?
I just wish to point out that the Prohibition of FGM Act it does not stand alone. Because there are a lot of attendant practices and actions that call for other measures. if you take a girl, for example, for FGM, first of all, that child, depending on the effect of that operation, the child might drop out of school. The child might be pulled out of school.
Like Sadia said, they actually were ready for marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The child might be taken for marriage, whatever. So that the Children's Act comes in. The SOA comes in. Yeah. So you will have the Sexual Offences Act. You will have the Penal Code, because of some of these operations lead to death. Yeah. The Penal Code might come in. Other measures might come to, like the harmful nature. It might be,
trafficking,
trafficking in persons. You have heard about cross-border.
The cross-border.
If the security on this area, the security measures are too tight on this other side of the border, that maybe the county security, they cannot allow this thing. They'll cross the border and go to the other country where there's no such law. So they take a holiday, cross the border, have it done, and then they come. And that is trafficking. We also have cross-county trafficking, that you move from one county to another, because you might be living up in a country where it is not possible to have it, but you hear that across the river, the other county, things are okay. They accept it, and it can be hidden, and it can be secretly protected. So you have trafficking in persons. So the prohibition of FGM Act does not stand alone. There are attendant, whatever enactment, laws that we can enforce. Yeah.
Okay. And I wanted to maybe add something or a comment on something you said, that it's hard to change people's culture. For me, I will tell you it's not hard. It's the way we are trying. FGM is not culture. Why I'm saying it's not culture is because, culture is something that gives you identity. You get? It's something that when you have it, someone can actually identify it with themselves. And FGM is done to hidden genitalia. And amongst us, the three ladies, no one can tell who went through FGM or who didn't go through FGM, because it's done to hidden genitalia unless someone confesses or gives testimony as a survivor.
To them.
Exactly. So FGM is not even such cultural thing to be proud of. Secondly, imagine people, all of us seated here are not culturally dressed. And I'm very sure millions of Kenyans are not culturally dressed. Reason being, they find, maybe because of the way they are dressed now, they find it more suitable for them. The same way we left our traditional attire. That was actually, if today I'm dressed like a Muslim lady, not like a Somali girl, you get. If I'm dressed like in the Somali attire, that means I would have had what we call, the cultural identity, that you can say this girl is a Somali. But now when you see me, I'm identified as a religious lady. The same way, FGM is about harming, the body.
Culture is dynamic. We can definitely
exactly. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah. And when these people are doing FGM to us, it's termed as illegal. Reason being, they are violating our rights. There is a place where the cultural rights end, and I would really want if she can share maybe with us. From the region I come from, we have the highest rate of FGM, 94%. That means, Anita, 9 out of 10 girls working today have gone through FGM in my community.
And
it's only one we save.
Yeah.
Like my daughters, because I have 3 daughters who are not cut, not leave alone cutting, they cannot be touched. That's something I promised them. So I wanted to know if you have maybe some cases that you won. Perhaps you can share with us.
Any success in FGM, because you already have a unit in place.
Data, something like data.
And then I also read that there are 50 prosecutors in the 22 hotspots. First of all, I'm shocked that there are 22 hotspots in this country, like some of us say. I'm actually pretty shocked. But there are 50 prosecutors across. There must be some success stories you have. And I'm hoping, actually, I wanted to even ask Songok himself, are there instances, I'm hoping there are more instances where you have stopped FGM from taking place, and as opposed to rescuing girls who have already gone through the practice,
Okay. Unfortunately, prosecution comes after the event, after the act. You see, so all that we can do, first of all, let me just acknowledge that it is true we do have 50 prosecutors spread across the hotspot areas, just to make sure that we are standardizing and implementing our SOPs and coordinating with other stakeholders in those regions to ensure that these cases are reported and dealt with. But they also engage in sensitization. And let me point out, Anita, that in the 2019, we had an exercise where we went to all those hotspots areas, just in 20. Of course, we were acting together with the stakeholder agencies and our development partners, just sensitizing the community. And going by what she's saying, that there's a big percentage of women who have suffered this FGM, you may not prosecute every case, but at least you can sensitize the women that you don't have to take your daughters through this, and that if it happens against your will, you have the right to report. And you have also to sensitize them. Where do I report? What do I do? What medical measures, what security measures are in place? Who is available to listen to me in case? Because even the mother faces risk from the community if she reports. So how sure am I of my safety if I report? And what about the survivors? The survivors who run away from this, where do they hide? Who takes care of them? What about the safe houses? Who takes care of them? It is important to build the confidence of the community about it and their security, so that they know that I can actually do something about it, and I will be safe, and our children will be safe, and the law will take its course.
Okay, so tell me, Stongok, thanks for even chipping in. Are there safe houses that are run by the government? And I'm also curious, are there cases that you have actually stopped this from going on?
First, I want to say this, that as a result of the presidential directive, we were also further guided to start operationalize the coordination mechanisms, both at the county levels and at the national levels. And at the county levels, we've been able to operationalize what we call the County Anti-FGM Steering Committee, where, of course, the county prosecutors are members of those committees. At the national level, we have the Multi-Agency Technical Implementation Committee, and we also have officers of the ODPP who are members of those committees. As a result of these collaborative mechanisms, we've been able to have successes, although, and for example, in Baringo this year, we were able, out of the collaborative mechanisms, a cutter was arrested and taken to court, and we were able to secure conviction. And so now, as we are talking, the cutter is in prison.
What's the penalty for cutters?
Normally, as
do you prosecutor?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
200.
Are they like
200.
differentiated? Because I know when in the fight against, say, illicit drinks, the brewers are given alternative ways of earning a living.
I was also coming to a case number 2, because I've been able to carry out some interventions together with the other state and the non-state actors. We had an event, I think it was in Wajir, and as a result of the community dialogue that we held, there was also a cutter who was able to come forward and down the tools. She brought the tools, the knives, and the concussions, and she was able to present those tools.
So that one was not prosecuted.
To the to the CAS.
Yeah.
And of course, the cutter was able to open up. And as a result of that, of course, the issue of amnesty and other things was also considered. And she was connected to the, we are calling it the Women Enterprise Fund. Because one of the reasons why the cutters do FGM is that it's become a source of income to them. And there are instances where a cutter, for example, when they cut a girl, they get like 4,000 shillings.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can imagine now if that cutter is able to cut like 10 girls.
Yeah, I was reading with that about that there's a Gambian activist called Daka, or I can't remember her name, but she actually said that the main reason why this continues to happen in Africa is because of poverty.
Yeah,
and
true.
I'm wondering, as you're doing your activism, as you're doing your campaigns, have you seen that it is poverty that is taking people to do this? Does economic empowerment, like Songoku is saying, does economic empowerment, does it help in changing the perceptions about FGM?
Now, before she also comes in, we also have some women reformed cutters in Narok and Kajiado. Who used to cut girls. But now, as a result of the interventions that we've been able to carry out, they've been able to stop cutting girls, but they are now cutting garments.
They're cutting garments?
Yeah, so it's now from cutting girls to cutting garments. Yeah, they do some tailoring. They're able to
have you
to
ever
make
been
dresses.
able to maybe in your research as the board, have you ever been able to figure out why women are actually facilitating this, yet they know the impact of this because they have also gone through this? Have you been able to understand why men commission it because they want to marry a cat woman, and it is women who know the impact of these things, like Sadia has been explaining, are the ones who keep facilitating it? Why would I see my aunties holding me down and my grandmother cutting me, yet they know the impact of these things?
Most of them, in as much as probably they have seen cases where they have seen the side effects of FGM, but to a large extent, most of the women are also ignorant because they require quite a lot of training so that they're able to understand the negative effects. I can give you an example. There was, I think, a campaign for a fistula in Narok. And when the information was given out that the ladies who are fistula, can you come out so that you can be assisted? And you will be able to, you will get amazed that quite a number of ladies came out that they are experiencing those problems. So in a way, there are some women who probably they may be experiencing those problems, but then they may not be knowing the connection between the challenges they are facing and of course the FGM. And there was also during that function, the men were also able to come out and say that Kumbe, our ladies are suffering and we don't know. So to a large extent, there is the issue of ignorance. There is also the issue of community pressure.
Maybe I'm at a better place, positioned to answer that question. You ask the issue of poverty and why are women inflicting pain on themselves, knowing the impact. Maybe I can explain better. Here I've written, what next after ending FGM. Then I said it's not about ending the cut on the body, but to continue empowering women and girls to be part of national and global development agendas, of which education, access to education is one of them. Why was I saying this? Allow me to give you a bigger perspective of the poverty she's talking about. Maybe she didn't elaborate. It's not actually the poverty that is driving the FGM. It's about women voices that are not being heard. Remember, the patriarchy you're talking about is something that is controlling all of Africa. We all know that there is an African proverb that places a woman in the kitchen. We all know that. So now with the patriarchy, women are controlled. Remember, in my community, a woman is not allowed to stand in front of men.
How are you doing it?
Now I'm coming there. It's not easy for a woman to stand in front of men and in fact talk about something that is considered more private. When I started this campaign, Anita, I was called all names, including Saadia Kintir. Kintir means vagina. The woman who advocates for, And I felt proud. Reason being, I know every man who is telling me that his daughter has it, his wife has it, his mother has it. In fact, if not for a vagina, he wouldn't be alive. Yes, of course. So I'm proud to be associated, and that's why I'm identified as a woman. Without it, I wouldn't be a woman. Exactly. So there are some names that we just acknowledge and own them because we have a goal to achieve. And that is to eradicate FGM in totality. Zero FGM, not even the SONA. When I come to women poverty, I'm talking about the socio-economic empowerment for women. Why am I saying this? Imagine you know the impact of FGM. And I said yesterday in a clip, my mother was unable, she's also a mother like me, right? She was unable to save me from FGM. Not because she hates me, she loves me dearly. But imagine, she couldn't even see me go through the FGM. She ran away. When I was giving birth, I could hear my mother crying from a distance, saying, even if it's dead, God save my daughter. But I also want my daughter, right? The way she loves me is the way I love my daughter. So I could see the fear, of losing me. I could see, the desperation of her in her. But for me, I said, oh, okay, this is the culture that we say a woman is not supposed to talk. But when, imagine, Anita, I'm going through all these complications and I have a role to protect my daughter, I will never keep quiet. That's what made me today called Saadia, the Iron Lady, the Fearless, the Courageous, the Brave, all those names I earned simply because I said, this is a culture that I will never accept, not to my daughter, not to any other girl. And one thing that really helped me, I carried that name until 2019. Now they call me Shuja, because when the president feted me as heroine, it was all over the media. Now I go to Tenerife, our Shuja, welcome. So now they know even the president refused FGM. He said it should end. So now I'm no longer the Saadia Kinter, I'm the Shuja now. And even the men and the political leaders and the religious leaders are now speaking in Tenerife. We have 4 FGM-free villages.
In Tenerife?
Yes.
Wow.
Villages that are not cutting girls anymore. And those girls are now coming out and speaking about it. And I think one thing that I would encourage maybe, and perhaps I want to ask the ODPP, we have these SOPs. The people you want to maybe prosecute are the perpetrators from these communities that I come from, for instance. So how are you going to create more awareness? Because without reporting, you don't have a case. We want cases from these communities because girls are cut every now and then because of the
season. Is there a specific
every
season?
time schools closes, there is FGM. But there are hundreds of girls who are out of school, especially in our communities, and we all know that. So FGM does not only affect the health complications, but it's linked to direct child marriage, which will further come and, affect the development of the society. It also subjects girls, drop out of school. So there is the lack of education. FGM has a lot of issues that are intertwined.
Even the laws don't stand on their own.
Exactly. So maybe she enlighten us. Whom are you going to work with? How are you going to create the... You tell us, I am representing the survivors.
Anita, I've already mentioned that under our anti-FGM unit, we have 50 prosecutors spread across all the hotspot areas. And one of their mandate, among others, is to liaise with the community and to conduct aggressive sensitization, which they cannot do on their own. They do it with partners and stakeholder agencies to reach out to these communities as much as possible, to enlighten them, to make them understand that the law is there to protect them. So that is the emphasis I would like to make. And I think the board can say more to that.
Do advocacy campaigns work as led by the board, and how often do you do them?
Yeah, true. Our advocacy campaign has been bearing fruits because out of the campaigns that we've been able to hold, the community dialogues that we have had, we've seen communities coming out and making a declaration to abandon FGM. We had one in Samburu, which was presided over, which was witnessed by His Excellency the President on 5th March. We also had another one in West Pokot, where the Pokot of Kenya and Uganda were also able to make a declaration also to abandon FGM, and that was done in on 6th February, and it was also presided by the CAS and the governor for West Pokot. We've also had other declarations. We had the Loita, we had now the Morans. Out of the capacity building efforts that we were able to undertake, they made a commitment that they can now be able to marry and cut girls. You know, amongst the Maasai, it was always a taboo to marry a girl who was not who had not undergone the cut. And the other issue that I also want to bring out is that we are having a lot of collaboration between the law enforcement officers and of course the whole chain, the state and the non-state actors, and for us that's also a plus. And when you also look back, in the year 2007, the prevalence of FGM in Kenya was standing at 28%, but as at 2014, we are at 21%. We are hoping that probably as we are doing a survey, the Kenya Health Demographic Survey, and we're hoping that probably the statistics has come down. And
how then do you help the Sabia's community where she says at least 9 out of 10 girls?
Yeah, that is as at 2014.
Yeah.
And again, we are talking about prevalence, and prevalence really is about the number of girls between the ages 14 to 49 who have undergone the cut. But we are also looking at are we able to realize zero incidences, zero new cases of FGM? Yeah, and that is where we are heading to by 2022.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, of course, December. And we will get there.
Yeah.
Because we've been able to carry a lot of interventions, and more importantly, having the political commitment by His Excellency the President, and we're having him supporting us. And I just also want to say that on 28th this year, we were able to launch a Generation Equality Forum, and we had quite a number of commitments, 12 commitments. And one of the commitments was about we are calling it Gender-Based Violence Recovery Center, which is more or less like the safe houses, the safe spaces we are talking about. Because we've also realized that the reason why we are not able to secure convictions on FGM is because of lack of safe spaces. Because when we have when we have victims of FGM, children who have been able to run away because of FGM, they have nowhere to run to. And even when we have cases of FGM, and the children are returned back to the family, and the perpetrators were the parents. So of course they will be tampering of the evidence. So we realize that that is one of the weak areas. Of course, within the hotspot counties, there are not many government-supported safe houses. We have privately owned. We have some in West Pokot, Samburu, Narok.
Like an active campaign, like the 22 hotspots. To have safe houses in
So it's one of the commitments under the Generation Equality Forum that in all the 47 counties, we will be able to have the gender-based violence rescue centers or recovery centers.
Maybe Anita, I wanted to say something about this safe houses and the rescue centers. You know, coming from the ground and being a survivor, I can understand the kind of trauma, shock, pain the victims will be in when case is reported. Imagine you went through all the horrible, story I told you. and now you are the evidence. You know, with FGM, it's not like any other criminal case.
Yeah.
It's a case where you are now handling a victim to be your evidence. So you can imagine these girls already need medical attention. They need psychosocial support. They need a lot of things. But now in counties like Tana River, where we don't have a child protection unit, where do you take this girl? There was instances when these girls were taken even to the police cells, not because they were supposed to be there, because we don't have anywhere to take them. And imagine you return them to the family, there is no witness anymore. There is no witness anymore. So you can imagine some of the gaps that we have. Such cases, like we don't have the child protection units. Even if we have the child protection unit, can play a bigger role than even the rescue center. You get? Because we don't want, at the end of the day, the victims to say, instead of the law protecting me, I'm even more exposed to other,
but
you know.
The SOPs has also covered a bit about the victims, right?
Yeah. The SOPs endeavor to ensure that there will be witness protection. As I told you, these SOPs are supposed to take care, or we work hand in hand with all the stakeholders, all the players. And your witness protection agency is one of the key players, just to ensure that witnesses who are under threat are protected. But in addition to the challenges, these SOPs are just not enough. But we believe they'll help us to overcome some of the challenges, which include hostility in the community. Imagine, as a prosecution body, we are in a certain in Tana River County, and we have this case which the community does not support. You can imagine that kind of hostility against our office.
Okay.
We also
just quickly,
we also have low reporting. People don't report, as I said earlier, because it's a hidden, it's a private thing, and then there's poor documentation. You know, the law and presentation of evidence in court. A lot of documentation is required, particularly medical evidence. There's never medical evidence because these people have already been taken through all those herbal things and traditional ways.
The whole thing,
and then lack of proper investigations. All these things I mentioned, they hamper the investigations, and they make it so hard for the DCI to do their work. And then of course witness intimidation. If you are reporting, then you go back to the community. Then you are threatened. So those are some of the challenges that we're experiencing. But we are hoping that with this framework of collaboration and coordination, we will be able to overcome those challenges.
Anita, I wanted to say something about the privacy, FGM done in private. Remember, we had the Kuria community in Migori County where they were dancing in broad daylight, doing the FGM, working with the victims on broad daylight. So not all communities are doing in private. So we really need, next time maybe you bring the police also, so that they tell us why they couldn't arrest those people. Because they cannot prosecute anything without a case.
Of course. I never want to end this without asking, are there alternatives to prosecution when it comes to FGM?
Okay, let me state that FGM is considered to be at par with sexual offenses.
Yes.
And with such cases, because of their serious nature, we do not advocate. It has not been expressly stated, but it is not advocated for. And during our validation exercise, which happened early this week, that issue came up very strongly, that we should leave it open just in case there is an extreme justification for it. But so far, I can say that FGM is not a candidate for diversion, is not a candidate offense for we have not given room for it, but we are saying that let the DPP be given room to consider whether circumstances will call for it. But for now, I can say that, because if you give people, say, diversion, you can imagine that is what will be happening. You just be hearing the diversion song.
How about bail and bonds? How about bail and bonds?
We say that you know that the Constitution
gives a right to everyone.
Everybody, all offenses are bailable. All offenses are bailable, unless the prosecution comes up with reasons, compelling reasons, which we can only hang on to for a period of time. So it is not even those compelling reasons are not permanent, because if somebody is under threat, under danger, you might want to just hold them somewhere in a safe house or whatever until that danger is overcome.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to come to an end of this show today. I know we can still have this discussion going on for 5 hours because there's so much. I'm also discovering myself, especially from Sadia's story. But we will not close without actually giving just a thank you for those who've been watching us and following the show. There's Luke Guide, I think. He had a lot of questions that I think we've covered on the show. He was asking about the northeastern part of Kenya. He says it's rampant. What steps has ODPP taken to fight it? And of course, there's all that sensitization and working with other stakeholders to fight it. And then he's asked a lot about historical process that made FGM to be practiced. Again, he said it's all about control. It's nothing religious or culturally acceptable that the people continue doing this. The same person has so many questions, and I think we've responded to them. Duncan Ondimo says, this is a moving testimony. Thank you for that. And then there's someone who asked a question that maybe we could answer. And I know we talked about it earlier. Someone called True Nams on Facebook says, this is just hunting for donor funds. Unless corruption is tackled, such practices will never end. Is there really a correlation between FGM and corruption?
Well, you can say the commercial aspect of it.
Yes.
The commercial aspect that people are doing it because they want to make money out of it. But you know, when it comes to corruption within the framework of ethics and anti-corruption, there is no relation.
There's no relation. Yeah.
That's
this is just mutilation and control.
Okay, maybe I can say something.
Yes.
He has a point, and at some point I might agree with him at some point, because we have been fighting FGM, and I'm very sure, and I'm not accusing anybody, there are some organizations who have been getting millions and millions in the name of ending FGM. But if you ask them how many girls they have rescued, they cannot even give you one. Why? And you cannot tell where the money was going because of the fancy project, fancy things and all that. And you can find just a genuine activist at a grassroots saving hundreds of girls without money. Some of us, we started, for example, he said Western. And this is the Western. Every time we talk about FGM, we talk of the guy who is speaking to us, and I want to speak to him directly.
It's called True Nams.
True Nams, you know, you are in Facebook, and Facebook came from the Western. So you're also enjoying the innovation of Western. Actually, when I started fighting FGM, it was based on my personal experience. When I was giving back, all the complications I went through. Anita, allow me to tell you this. When I wanted to hug my daughter, you know, and God was giving me a signal that I should protect her, I was unable to sit properly. I have a wound to heal. Remember, I was cut anyhowly for the baby to pass. My daughter has a big head like this because of the complications. So now I'm crying because I cannot even hug my daughter. You know, that's when I said it should never happen to any girl. At that time, I have no access to internet. I don't even have a phone. I don't even know there is anyone else fighting FGM. It was my personal initiative. And that's why up to now, I have the passion to save as many girls as possible. The first time I met Muzungu, a white person speaking about FGM, was 2017. And I started this campaign 2008 offline. That's when I met the global media campaign telling us you can also use the media to amplify, like the way we are doing today. And the power of media you cannot underestimate. So I want to tell Trunams that yes, there are people who are just chasing donor funds, who are briefcase, and they want, you know. But for us who come from the grassroots, who have the survival experience, who say, and Anita, allow me to say this, for all the people who are watching us, today, 4 million women and girls have gone through FGM. In Kenya. People, like for instance, if their scars were on the face, today you could see. But because it's done to hidden, and they are silent about it, they don't have voices. The way, the reason why, Saadia, I want to continue speaking, I've inspired a lot of survivors who are now coming up speaking. If Saadia can share a story, I also need such courage and confidence to also say it. So the more we are speaking, the more they will come on board. So Trunams, know that they are your mothers, sisters who are suffering in silence. Don't mind those who are going for business. Those people, God will deal with them, and they have their day to answer God. So for us, let's continue saying we want zero FGM.
So Wilson Jure had a tweet, and he said, I don't subscribe to your school of thought. I have a feeling this culture should never be condemned, especially by Africans. The alternatives you are promoting have brought HIV and AIDS, homosexuality, monogamy, and other Western vices to our population. We need to rethink about it. And then somebody challenged him, and then he says, I have never, the same guy Wilson, he says, I have never understood why girl initiation is called FGM, and we've explained that, let alone criminalizing it. They don't believe we should criminalize it. I believe our culture should be restored since this foreign culture is a total failure. So the question is, and to Mr. Songok, do you have any campaigns for men?
He should first exit Twitter and Facebook, then speak to us.
In fact, even we can target him so that we are able to share, have a dialogue, so that he's able to understand the negative effects of FGM. Now,
heard about
the role of men in this campaign is very critical, and as anti-FGM board, we are also having partnership with men. We have men and FGM, an organization which is headed by Mwebia, and it has men in that. And they are also going to various counties talking to men. Number two is that we're also having conversations, dialogues with the cultural elders. And most of them, of course, are men, and they are custodians of our culture. And once we have the dialogue with them, they're also able to understand that we have a Prohibition of FGM Act in place, and that when they also understand the negative effects, they get to be champions. We're also talking with the religious leaders, and most of them also are also men. We are also targeting fathers, because this is a patriarchal society. And when fathers are able to say no within the family setup, then of course their girls will be safe.
Okay, we are
That's where I disagree, Anita. Allow me to say this. You see, the reason we are going through all this horrible maze because of FGM is because of a man. The man wants to control my sexuality. He wants me packaged in a certain way to favor his interests. The same man should not now dictate again what should happen to us, whether we should stop or not. We want men as our allies. We want men to feel that what is happening to us is wrong. Not because now they feel, oh, survivors are like this, survivors are like, because I have seen many forums, men intimidating the survivors and saying, some of them saying, Gata hawana ladha. I have seen, why are you intimidating this survivor when she went through all this because of you? Now I want to empower the survivors and protect their own daughters, because we have a right to our body, and that's why the prosecutor is here to safeguard our interests.
Yes, and then Tabitha, just to finish up, FGM will be criminal. It's a criminal offense. You need to confirm that to people you are saying it should not be criminal.
Yeah, so I wish to address those respondents who are telling us that these should not be criminal.
Are you saying respondents?
Yeah, they are because they are responding to.
Even Dr. Tatu went to court to challenge the same,
at the comment,
and we won.
Let them know that it is criminalized. This is a criminal offense, and any person who plays a role in any way will be, the law will catch up. Yeah, the law will catch up with them. Yeah, and they'll be fined. They'll be brought in. And they'll be arrested and charged. Yeah, so they should not take it lightly. Yeah, so they can feel free to talk whatever they talk in the social media. But if they participate in any way to have a girl undergo FGM, then they will be arrested and the law shall take its course.
I want to come to an end of this discussion because clearly we will not finish it. Something keeps coming up as we keep talking. And I want to thank you so much, Sadia, for your testimony. I want to thank you for coming on air. I want to thank you as well for telling us what the law says about this. And like I'm saying, we can't exhaust this topic. You can still join us on social, and you can still keep engaging on this topic. As we have covered, FGM is not religion. No religion advocates for it. No holy book has this written anywhere that it should be done to girls. FGM is mutilation. We have confirmed that here. FGM is about controlling a woman, which you're not supposed to do. And women are born, girls are born
Perfect.
You don't need to change
They are
how girls.
wonderfully and beautifully
Made.
Girls are also fearfully and wonderfully made, and they have a right to their bodies. And the law is out here to protect girls.
Good.
And we are calling upon you as the community, as the male members of the society, as mothers, aunties, and grandmothers, protect the girl because she needs protection from you. And of course, we're also asking them to raise their voices.
Yeah.
Because what is important is you raising your voice and saying this is happening, come stop it. It is important to actually say it before it happens. It helps a lot. But if it has happened again, you can also call upon the law to come and take on those who are doing this to girls. So I want to come to an end to this show. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for engaging with us on social. And also just keep engaging with us. I want to wish you a good weekend, a restful weekend, and a blessed week ahead next week. God bless. Thank you so much.
Thank you.